The calendar hangs on the wall with one clip empty. That detail matters more than it should. In any ordinary household, a blank space on a scheduling board means nothing at all. Someone forgot to fill it in. Someone pulled a card and never replaced it. But inside a palace, nothing is accidentally blank. Every space on a royal calendar carries institutional weight. An empty slot is not forgetfulness. It is a decision that someone had to make. This story is about that decision. It is about what happens after one family appears together in public and the institution assumes the appearance can be repeated. It is about a father who must draw a line between a child's happy afternoon and permanent institutional consent. And it is about a calendar clip that will remain empty because one man chose to absorb the cost of saying no. The afternoon at Wimbledon was, by every visible measure, a success. The Wales children appeared alongside their parents at the championship match. They smiled. They clapped. They shook the hand of the champion with the kind of natural warmth that cameras love and institutions crave. The photographs travelled the world within hours. The tabloids ran front-page spreads. Palace communications noted the strong public response with quiet satisfaction. It was the kind of afternoon that the monarchy dreams about, but cannot manufacture. The children did not perform. They simply were themselves, present in the moment without any visible rehearsal. There was no stiffness, no staged quality. The family looked like a family, and that naturalness was precisely what made the images so valuable to the institution. No one disputed the obvious. The children handled the event beautifully. They were poised. They were present. They seemed genuinely happy to be there. And in the arithmetic of royal scheduling, a successful appearance is never just a memory. It is a data point. It is evidence that the arrangement works and can therefore be repeated. That is where the trouble begins, not in the event itself, but in the assumption that follows it. A child's willingness to attend one afternoon does not equal agreement to attend the next. A family's decision to appear once does not bind them to appear again. But inside the institution, the logic runs differently. Success creates expectation. Expectation becomes scheduling. Scheduling becomes obligation. An obligation in a palace is written on a card. These cards are small, formal, printed on heavy stock. Each one carries an event title, a date, a location, and a code that designates the engagement status. The cards are clipped to a wall-mounted calendar in each senior household. They represent the visible architecture of royal duty. What appears on the calendar is expected to happen. What is absent from the calendar does not exist. Within days of Wimbledon, a pre-filled appearance card was prepared for the next season. The card carried the children's names. It carried a date. It carried an event code. And it was clipped to Camilla's palace calendar beneath the relevant month, as though the matter had already been settled. No one asked William. No one asked Catherine. No one consulted the parents whose children were named on that card. The institution simply looked at the Wimbledon photographs, noted the public approval, and projected the arrangement forward. One successful outing became a scheduled return. One happy afternoon became a recurring commitment. This is how the system feeds itself. It takes something genuine and converts it into protocol. It watches a child laugh at a tennis match and sees a reliable source of future content. Not out of malice, not out of cruelty, out of institutional hunger. The monarchy needs visible continuity. It needs the next generation on camera. And when the next generation appears willingly, even once, the calendar treats that willingness as permanent consent. Camilla's role in this process deserves careful framing. She did not invent the practice. She inherited it. Royal calendars have operated this way for decades. Successful appearances are noted and projected forward by staff. Scheduling teams anticipate future engagements based on past performance. The Queen Consort's calendar is, in many ways, a mirror of institutional momentum. It reflects what the palace believes should happen next. The system she manages was designed long before she entered it. Its habits are older than any living member of the family. Cards are prepared, dates are filled, codes are assigned. The process has its own gravity, and it pulls everyone forward whether they have agreed to move or not. Camilla is not the author of this gravity. She is its current steward. So when the next season card appeared on her calendar, it arrived through ordinary channels. Staff prepared it. Schedulers approved the date. The card was printed and clipped into place as part of routine forward planning. From the institution's perspective, this was not overreach. It was efficiency. The Wimbledon appearance worked. The public responded well. The next step was to book the children again. But logic and parenthood operate in different currencies. William first noticed the card during a routine calendar review. These reviews happen regularly among senior royals. Households coordinate schedules weeks and months in advance. The process requires visibility across different offices, and it was during one of these coordination sessions that William spotted his children's names on an event card he had never approved. The card was not hidden. It was not secret. It sat openly on the calendar beside other confirmed engagements. That openness was itself revealing. No one felt the need to conceal it because no one believed it required parental consent. The institution had already decided. The card was simply a confirmation of what the palace considered obvious. William studied the card carefully. He read the event code printed in the lower corner. He noted the date, and then he saw something that changed the entire situation. The code was not provisional. It was not a placeholder awaiting approval. It was an active booking code, the kind used only for confirmed engagements, the kind that triggers logistical chains, security planning, transport coordination, press accreditation. The full machinery of state begins turning the moment an active code appears. Advanced teams receive instructions. Venue staff are briefed. The children's protection detail starts building a security plan for a date that their parents never authorized. A provisional code would have meant the card was a suggestion. An active code meant the card was a commitment, and no one had asked the father whether his children were committed to anything. That distinction matters enormously. It is the difference between a conversation and a decision, between asking and assuming, between respecting parental authority and treating it as a formality the scheduling process can bypass. William said nothing in the meeting. He did not raise an objection. He did not create a scene or challenge anyone directly. He took note of the code and returned to his own household. This restraint was not passivity. It was precision. William understood that challenging the card in a coordination meeting would create a political confrontation. It would pit household against household. It would force staff to choose sides. And it would turn a scheduling dispute into a constitutional argument about who controls the heir's children. He chose a quieter path. He chose to act within the system while resisting what the system had assumed. Back in his own office, William pulled the family folder. Every senior royal household maintains one. It contains the approved schedule of family engagements, authorized by the parents themselves. The distinction is important. The palace calendar reflects institutional planning. The family folder reflects parental decisions. The two are supposed to align, but when they diverge, the family folder is sovereign. That sovereignty is rarely tested. Most of the time, the calendars agree. Events are discussed, approved, scheduled. The machinery works because everyone cooperates. But cooperation requires consent, and consent requires asking. And asking is precisely what the institution had failed to do. In all the coordination meetings and schedule reviews, no one had paused to make a single phone call. No one had sent a note. No one had walked down a corridor to ask a straightforward question. The institution moved past asking because asking introduces the possibility of refusal. William returned to Camilla's palace calendar. He located the card beneath next season's date. He examined the clip holding it in place. The empty calendar clip would, in a moment, tell the entire story of this dispute. He unfastened the clip. He lifted the card free from the calendar surface. He held it over the open family folder. And then he paused. This pause deserves attention. William was not uncertain about what he intended to do. He was measuring the cost of doing it. Removing the card would send a clear message to every office in the palace. It would tell the institution that Wimbledon was not a template for future appearances. It would tell scheduling staff that the children's engagements require explicit consent each and every time. It would tell Camilla's household that forward planning cannot include the Wales children without parental authorization. But it would also cost him something real. The palace values cooperation above almost everything. It values smooth scheduling. It values the appearance of family unity. Removing a card from the Queen Consort's calendar is not a neutral administrative act. It is a statement, and statements inside the palace carry consequences that outlast the moment. William would face institutional criticism. He would be characterized as difficult. He would be seen as someone who puts family boundaries above royal convenience. He would lose access to the warm public images that come from family appearances. The photographs from Wimbledon generated enormous goodwill. Walking away from that goodwill is expensive in institutional currency. Every future family appearance would carry fewer children and less warmth. Every press briefing would be met with questions about why the children were absent. The institution would adapt, of course. It always does. But it would remember who made the adaptation necessary, and in a palace, being remembered for a refusal is its own form of quiet exile. But the alternative was more expensive still. If the card stayed, silence would become precedent. If the booking went unchallenged, every future season would produce another card, another code, another assumption. The children would be scheduled into appearances, not because their parents agreed, but because their parents failed to object. The card nearly survived. Staff intervened. They described the booking as provisional. They suggested it was merely a placeholder, nothing binding. They argued that no one intended to bypass parental approval. They framed the active code as an administrative shortcut, a convenience, nothing more. William listened. Then he pointed to the code. Not provisional, not a placeholder. Active, confirmed, operational. The code proved that silence had already been treated as consent. The institution had not waited for a yes. It had simply assumed the absence of a no. That assumption is the structure's deepest habit. It does not need to override anyone. It does not need to force compliance. It simply moves forward and waits for someone to object. And when no one objects, the forward motion becomes permanent. The placeholder becomes the plan. The suggestion becomes the schedule. The schedule becomes the obligation. William would not let silence stand for consent. Not when his children's names were on the card, not when their afternoons were being converted into institutional commitments, without anyone asking whether those afternoons belonged to the palace or to the family. He crossed the event code with a single deliberate line. He placed the card inside the family folder, face down beneath the current schedule. He closed the folder over it. He returned the empty clip to the calendar. The empty calendar clip now marked the space where institutional assumption had met parental refusal. No argument, no confrontation, no public statement. Just a card moved from one surface to another. A clip left holding nothing. A folder closed beneath a father's hand. The act was small. The meaning was vast. William removed the next season child appearance card from Camilla's palace calendar and filed it with the parents. In one motion, he transferred authority over his children's public schedule from the institution back to the family. The card would remain in the family folder until the parents decided otherwise. Not the schedulers, not the palace, not the momentum of a successful afternoon. The parents. This is not a story about defiance. It is not about a father who refuses to let his children participate in royal life. William is not withdrawing from public duty. He is not shielding his family from the obligations that come with their position. He knows the monarchy needs the next generation to be visible. He knows the public expects to see his children from time to time. He understands the institutional logic completely because he grew up inside it. His own childhood was shaped by the same calendar system. His own appearances were scheduled, coordinated, projected forward from one season to the next. He knows what it feels like to see your name on a card you never agreed to. That knowledge does not make him hostile to the system. It makes him precise about where the system must stop. What William is doing is simpler and harder than refusal. He is insisting on a principle so basic it should not require defending. Parents decide when their children appear in public, not calendars, not event codes, not scheduling staff acting on the momentum of a single successful outing. The cost of this principle will unfold over months and years. William will not be thanked for drawing this line. The palace will note the gap in next season's schedule and adjust its communications accordingly. Staff will manage without the photographs they expected. Commentators will speculate about family tension within the senior ranks. Some will frame the removal as a deliberate snub. Others will call it overprotective parenting. Almost no one will describe it accurately. What William did was not dramatic. It was parental. He looked at a system that converts children's joy into institutional obligation and said, not this time, not automatically, not without being asked. The true family result is not another absence from the public calendar. It is not a victory for one household or a defeat for another. It is something more difficult to measure and more human in its weight. It is the establishment of a precedent that someone must always bear the cost of saying no, and that someone, for now and perhaps for years to come, is William. The children will not know what their father did on this particular afternoon. They will not see the card or the calendar or the folder. They will simply continue to live their lives without an obligation they never consented to. And years from now, if they choose to appear at Wimbledon again, it will be because they chose it, not because a card clipped to a calendar in another household decided it for them. Every future appearance request will require a conversation. Every card will need explicit parental approval. Every season will demand a fresh decision rather than inherited consent. The institution will keep asking. That is its nature. Its appetite for visible continuity never rests. And William will keep answering, one card at a time. That is his. The empty calendar clip hangs on the palace wall in Camilla's office. Beneath it, nothing. No card, no children's names, no date, no event code. Just the small metal shape that once held an assumption and now holds only air. In another room, the family folder rests closed. William's hand is no longer on it. He has moved to other work, other decisions, other quiet negotiations between what the institution demands and what his family needs. But the folder remains, and the card is inside it, face down, its crossed-out code visible to no one. The next time anyone in the palace wants to place those children on a royal calendar, they will have to open that folder first. They will have to find the parents. They will have to ask a question and wait for an answer. And they will have to accept that the answer might be no. That is the cost William chose to carry. Not silence, not permanent refusal, just the insistence that asking is never optional, that a child's afternoon belongs to the child, that a family's calendar belongs to the family, that a happy afternoon at Wimbledon is a memory, not a contract. The clip remains empty. The folder remains closed, and somewhere between those two quiet objects lies the entire difference between a family that serves the institution and an institution that respects the family. It is a small difference. It fits on a single card, but someone had to fight for it. And the fight looked nothing like a fight. It looked like a father removing a card from a metal clip, crossing out a code, placing it inside a folder where only the parents could reach. That is what protection looks like inside the palace. Not a wall, not a shield, not a public declaration, just a boundary drawn in the smallest possible gesture at the highest possible cost. Camilla's wall calendar hangs in the late light with one metal clip holding nothing. In another room, the crossed card rests face down inside the